The truly big clubs are supposed to compete for and win the big trophies on a regular basis. We all know this to be true. And in a world where Rangers have won 54 league titles and Olympiacos have won 44, you might think that any half-decent club ought to have at least one league title gathering dust in their trophy cabinet. In a number of cases you'd be right, but for the purposes of today's video, I thought I'd try to find some of the biggest and best clubs from the world of football who have never been crowned as domestic champions. National championships under any format, including the pre-Bundesliga era in Germany or the pre-Premier League era here in England, rule a club out, as do titles as part of no longer existing leagues such as the Soviet Top League, the DDR Oberliga, or the Yugoslav First League. Lastly, just to keep things interesting, I'm limiting myself to just one team per nation. Here are some of the biggest and best football clubs to have never won a top-flight league title. Villarreal. This is one of those that may come as a big shock to younger foreign viewers, but not so much to older Spanish subscribers. If we have any older Spanish subscribers that is, I'm sure there are a few of you out there somewhere. I say that because whilst Villarreal have been a really competitive club since the turn of the millennium, spending just one season outside of Spain's top flight, that wasn't always the case. The city of Villarreal is home to only 50,000 people, meaning the city is punching above its weight in many respects, just to play host to a La Liga club. It wasn't until 1998 that Villarreal actually reached the promised land via the Segunda Division playoffs, but they had really begun to mix it with the big boys by the mid-2000s, attracting some top talent like Diego Forlan, Marcos Senna, and Juan Roman Riquelme. For 7 consecutive seasons, the club from Castelló didn't finish outside of the top 7 once, and they did so only twice in 14 seasons between 2005 and 2019. The closest Villarreal have come to lifting the La Liga title was in the 2007-08 season, when they finished 10 points ahead of Barcelona and just 1 place behind the champions Real Madrid. Not only have Villarreal never won a league title, but the former Champions League semi-finalists have never won a Copa del Rey either, so I think they're a good bet for a place in the 7. Honourable mentions in Spain go to the likes of Espanyol and Getafe. Braga. For those of you who don't know, Portugal's Primeira Liga, or Liga NOS, is a real oligopoly controlled by 3 clubs. Portugal's Os Três Grandes, or Big 3, are Benfica, Porto, and Sporting Club de Portugal. Between them, they have won all but 2 Portuguese league titles since the nation's top flight was founded in 1934. It's a level of dominance rivaled by few nations or leagues on earth, and the only 2 teams to have won Portugal's top flight other than those 3 are Belenense and Boa Vista. That means any Portuguese club outside of those 4 could have featured, and I don't think there is a bigger or better candidate than Sporting Braga. Founded some 99 years ago, Braga have spent the vast majority of those 99 years in Portugal's top flight, including every season since the mid-1970s. The club have cracked Portugal's top 3 on a couple of occasions, but never the top 1, coming closest in the 2009-10 campaign. That season, Braga finished as league runners-up ahead of Porto and Sporting, but still 5 points behind the champions Benfica. Braga have enjoyed some success outside of the league, winning the Taça de Portugal and the Taça da Liga twice, the Intertoto Cup once, and having lost to their compatriots Porto in the Europa League final in 2011. A big club, regulars in Europe, and routinely competitive domestically, but never league champions, so Braga takes 6th place. Fortaleza. We take a rare but welcome break from the European game in 5th place as we travel southwest across the Atlantic, washing up on the shores of the Brazilian coast. Fortaleza is actually the closest Brazilian state capital to Europe, with less than 3,500 miles separating the port of Fortaleza from the port of Lisbon in Portugal. Fortaleza itself is Brazil's 5th largest city, home to 2.6 million people within the city walls and more than 4 million across the entire metropolitan area. There are 2 decent-sized top-flight clubs based in the city, Ceará and Fortaleza, and neither have ever been crowned as Brazilian champions. Fortaleza, who have had some pretty dramatic rises and falls, have come the closest, twice finishing as runners-up. Fortaleza's 2 second-place finishes came in 1960 and 1968, when Brazil's national champions were decided by knockout ties competed in by regional champions, and Fortaleza lost their 1960 final to Palmeiras and their 1968 final to Bahia. Just a couple of seasons ago, Fortaleza looked like a fallen giant languishing down in Brazil's 3rd tier, playing out of an out-of-place 63,903 capacity mega stadium. 2 promotions in 2 seasons under the watchful eye of young boss and Sao Paulo legend Rogério Ceni has seen the club return to the summit of the Brazilian game, and Fortaleza finished 9th last season, putting them into the qualifiers for the Copa Sudamericana first stage. Stade Rennais. Back to Europe, there are a couple of candidates from France, and I'll give a quick shout out to Toulouse, but my choice in 4th place is Stade Rennais. Renowned for their superb academy that has nurtured the likes of Sylvain Wiltord and Mikel Silvestre in the past, and talent like Ousmane Dembele and Eduardo Camavinga in more recent years, Rennes have spent most of their existence in France's top flight, and they have often been a really competitive side. That was certainly true of this season before it was brought to an abrupt halt, with Rennes occupying 3rd place in Ligue 1, meaning they will be in the Champions League next season. That is actually the closest Rennes have ever come to lifting the Ligue 1 title, a 3rd place finish, but they have qualified for European football on several occasions, and they were the joint winners of the Intertoto Cup in 2008. Whilst Rennes have never won a domestic league title, they have enjoyed success in domestic cup competitions, winning the Coupe de France on 3 occasions, most recently in 2019, when they defeated PSG on penalties to lift the trophy at the Stade de France. West Ham. An English club had to feature in this 7, and I don't think there's a better candidate for top spot than West Ham, as much as it is obviously an outrage that the behemoths and genuine giants of world football, Hull City, have never won a top flight title. Most current Premier League teams have won at least one top flight league title, including the likes of Burnley and Sheffield United, but despite having spent many seasons in the First Division and the Premier League, West Ham have never lifted the league title. In fact, despite their proud history and success in other departments, West Ham have never even been top-flight runners-up, making them less successful than even the likes of Blackpool and Oldham Athletic in the league game. West Ham's highest ever league finish came in the 1985-86 campaign when manager John Lyall led the Hammers to a 3rd place finish, with a points tally of 84 bettered only by the 2 Merseyside clubs. Whilst West Ham have never had a crowning moment in the league, they have won the FA Cup thrice, as well as reaching 2 finals in which they just fell short. The Hammers also won the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1965 and an Intertoto Cup in 1999. If you know any West Ham fans, they might also tell you that they won the World Cup, due to some of England's key men at the '66 World Cup having been graduates of the Academy of Football, and without a league title in sight, who can blame them for trying to claim a World Cup? An honourable mention in England goes to current Premier League side Southampton, who were First Division runners-up back in the 1983-84 campaign and have also won the FA Cup but never a top-flight league title. Parma. Italian football probably has more decent-sized clubs without a top-flight league title than any other nation. And honourable mentions here go to Atalanta and Udinese in particular, but my choice from Serie A is Parma. Of course, Parma's history is a real mixed bag, containing agony and ecstasy in equal measure. As recently as 2016, Parma found themselves in the basement of Italy's Football League pyramid in the 4th tier following financial ruin, but 3 consecutive promotions sealed a sensational return to Serie A in 2018. Now Parma look to be back in business, currently sitting in 12th place in the Serie A table, closer in terms of their points tally to European qualification than they are to relegation. Parma actually didn't reach Italy's top flight for the first time until 1990. But they were to have an incredible decade in the 1990s. Parma was a hotbed of world-class talent between 1990 and 2004, boasting the likes of Gianluigi Buffon, Lilian Thuram, Dino Baggio, Fabio Cannavaro, Gianfranco Zola, Juan Sebastian Veron, and Hernan Crespo. Sadly for Parma, their remarkable golden generation coincided with the golden era for Serie A, at a time when a handful of Serie A clubs could boast an equally extraordinary list of big hitters. Parma regularly finished among the division's top 5, coming closest to a Serie A title in 1997, when the club finished just 2 points behind Juventus as league runners-up. Outside of Serie A, Parma won the Coppa Italia thrice, the UEFA Cup twice, and the Super Coppa Italiana, the European Cup Winners' Cup, and the European Super Cup once apiece. Bayer Leverkusen. In top spot, although I would say it's pretty arbitrary trying to actually rank these teams, I have gone for Bayer Leverkusen, thanks primarily to the performances of the club over the last 30 years. The city of Leverkusen is relatively small by Bundesliga club standards, home to just over 160,000 people. Nevertheless, since the start of the 1980s, Bayer Leverkusen haven't spent a single season outside of Germany's top flight. There is perhaps no team, in Europe at least, that is more synonymous with having come close, but never quite managing to get their feet across the line in terms of a league title than Bayer Leverkusen. Germany's nearly men for the last 30 years, Bayer's strongest side was probably the one led by Michael Ballack at the turn of the millennium. Between 1997 and 2004, Leverkusen only finished outside the Bundesliga's top 4 once, even finishing as league runners-up an incredible 4 times in just 6 seasons. This earned Leverkusen the nickname Neverkusen in English and Vitzekusen in German, which just translates as second Kusen. Bayer Leverkusen have never really fallen away either, continuing to compete at the top end of the Bundesliga table in almost every season since the mid-90s, and enjoying a particular renaissance over the last 10 years, during which time they have been regulars in the Champions League. In total, Leverkusen have finished as Bundesliga runners-up 5 times, they have finished third 5 times, and fourth 5 times. The club has repeatedly missed out on the title by just a couple of points, but the closest they came was in 1990-2000 season when they actually finished level on points with Bayern Munich, missing out on a first Bundesliga title by virtue of goal difference alone. Bayer Leverkusen have won the DFB Pokal and the UEFA Cup, and all things considered, I don't think there is any other team that I could have put in top spot. That's it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. Give us a like if you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. And as always, make sure that you are subscribed to HITC7s.